Question number 2, Liam Kerr.
To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on whether the A96 will be dualled from Inverness to Aberdeen.
Minister Fiona Hislop.
We remain committed to improving the A96, including dualling Inverness to Nairn and the Nairn bypass, despite a worst-case scenario for Scotland following the UK Autumn Statement. I am acutely aware of the importance of the route to those living along the corridor, and our current plans are to fully dual the route. As part of this process, we are undertaking the corridor review, which through initial consultation generated 11,000 improvement options. It's only right that these are fully appraised. I am expecting draft outcomes from the review to be ready for final public consultation in the coming months before reaching a final decision.
Liam Kerr.
Well, in 2011, the SNP promised the A96 would be dualled in full by 2030. No ifs, no buts, no climate corridor review. Cabinet Secretary, 11 people have been killed and 69 seriously injured on the A96 in the last 4 years, with 2 more tragically lost just last week. But, Presiding Officer, it turns out this government has spent just £800,000 on road safety improvements in that time, but £5 million on its climate review. Does the Cabinet Secretary have any concerns that spending over 5 times as much on a climate review as on saving people's lives might suggest this Central Belt-focused government has its priorities wrong?
Minister.
I express my condolences to the families following the 2 fatalities following the accident on the 12th of February at Redhill, Inverness. I can relay that only last year £610,000 was spent on road maintenance and safety, and I can also relay to the member that in total there has been £31 million spent on the development and the planning and all the design work necessary, particularly for the dualling aspect of the Inverness-Nairn aspect of that road. But as we've already heard in answers today, if we have a UK government that has not invested in infrastructure, has cut infrastructure, not just for Scotland, but for the rest of the
Members,
UK,
let's hear the Minister.
and if we also have a Labour Party that would want to continue that financial position, that puts capital infrastructure, whether it's in the Central Belt, whether it's in the north of Scotland, whether it's in the Highlands or the north to east, at a very difficult position. I will continue the job in ensuring that the review develops, and also the important work on the A96 Inverness-Nairn bypass continues.
Liam Kerr.
Well, of course, the question was not about how much has been spent, but about the £800,000 spent on road safety improvements. That is pitiful. Cabinet Secretary, over the weekend, the Northern Scot reported that the promise to dual the A96 by 2030 was abandoned more than 3 years ago. FOIs suggest that the disgraced former Transport Minister, Michael Matheson, ensured that the public was not told of this. So let me ask this Cabinet Secretary clearly and concisely a yes or no question. Will the SNP dual the A96 in full by 2030 as was promised?
Minister.
The SNP government will respect the review that is taking place, respect all those thousands of people have inputted into that.
Let us hear the Minister.
Our current plans are to dual the A96, but in particular, the A96 dualling between Inverness and Nairn is a priority, as the member well knows.
Fergus Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. On the 19th of February 2021, the then Cabinet Secretary, Michael Matheson, announced that the made orders for the Nairn bypass and the dual section of the A96 from Inverness would be issued that summer. 3 years on, they still haven't been made. Has this 3-year delay been deliberate as a means of ensuring that the Scottish Government don't have to spend the money on delivering their promise for a Nairn bypass, for which my constituents have waited over 15 years? And if the Cabinet Secretary refutes that proposition, will she now publish a detailed plan setting out when construction will begin and when it will be completed?
Minister.
As I advised Mr Ewing during our recent meeting, Transport Scotland is pressing forward with the significant work, and it is significant work required to publish the made orders for the A96 Inverness to Nairn, including Nairn bypass. I look forward to that happening in the first quarter of 2024, which also includes provision for the compulsory purchase orders, with a view that we can complete the statutory process for the scheme. Now, delivery of the scheme, as he well knows, can only commence, if approved, under the relevant statutory authorisation process, and thereafter a timetable for progress can be set in line with available budgets.
Rhoda Grant.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Cabinet Secretary has again given a commitment to dualling the A96 from Inverness to Nairn, including the Nairn bypass. Therefore, I was surprised to discover through an FOI that only one piece of land has been bought thus far at Milton of Culloden, and that no other compulsory purchase orders had been made. Can I ask the Cabinet Secretary to tell us how much land she will require to be purchased for this piece of work and when it will be completed?
Minister.
Well, as I've relayed in previous answers, there is a statutory process, there is a stage process in terms of that work that's required. The made orders will enable the compulsory purchase orders for that section to be delivered, and, Presiding Officer, we expect to announce that in the first quarter of 2024, which is very, very soon indeed.